Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Scarborough here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. And today we have a new moon in the sign of Gemini, and I thought we could take a look at it. So this new moon that occurs in Gemini is occurring at 3 degrees of Gemini. So I thought it would be good to start with the Sabian symbol for 3 degrees of Gemini to get an idea of what the symbology is around this new moon, and then we'll go right to the new moon and see what aspects are occurring. So we're at 3 degrees of Gemini, and the symbol for that is the garden of the Tuileries in Paris. It says the keynote is the formalization of collective ideals through the application of reason and order to newly discovered aspects of nature. It says the garden of the Tuileries and Versailles are typical representations of the classical spirit and its need for order and symmetry. The reign of King Louis XVI followed the Renaissance, which was filled with the excitement of a new spirit of discovery and a period of internal troubles. A reaction had come to consolidate the gains made by the collective mind of the European man. Such consolidation usually leads to another extreme, i.e. formalism, and often a narrow intellectual crystallization of dualistic concepts. Okay, and so there is this sense of newness, that renaissance of the mind time, and then taking that sort of newness and formalizing it to a certain extent that it is too rigid. Okay, so that's the symbol that we have here. So let's, I'm going to share the chart now. And here we have the chart. And this chart is with an Aries ascendant. So this is purely archetypical in a way. And so here we have the new moon in Gemini. The new moon in Gemini is in a trine to both Saturn in Aquarius and Pallas Athena in Aquarius. Saturn and Pallas are conjunct each other. This is the conjunction between Pallas and Saturn is actually a balsamic conjunction. Is it balsamic? Yes, it's a balsamic conjunction. Pallas is government, okay? And so government has to sort of be restructured in a way that's more conducive to the collective Aquarius and the Aquarian ideals of equality, really. Okay, so there's that in here. Trine this new moon. This trine to the new moon is a trine of creative expression. And so this is a highly creative time for us to actually create the structures for the new reality that we find ourselves in, sort of the new mind that we find ourselves in. Now, if we look at the ruler of Gemini, we look to Mercury, and here we have Mercury right here in Gemini, and it's powerfully placed. We had a conjunction of Venus and Mercury in Gemini. That is, this already occurred previous to this new moon. It's occurred at 21 degrees of Gemini, and we will look at the degree of 21 degrees of Gemini to see what that means. But we need to look at the fact that this particular Mercury conjunct Venus, and of course Venus is retrograde, so we're reevaluating our values, okay, is actually square Neptune, and it is a first quarter square. It's a crisis in action square. And so we want to take action, but the action that we take is kind of foggy because we're dealing with Neptune. Now, there are two things with Neptune. We can create illusions and delusions with Neptune, or we can spiritualize things with Neptune. We can bring in the energy of compassion. And so, as always with Gemini, there's two options here. There's delusion, or there's a new way with compassion. Okay? And so you never really know with Neptune, because of that, because of the energy of Neptune. So nothing is clear, and yet intention is everything. And so if we can put our intentions forth with the spirit of compassion, at the same time, with the trine from Saturn and Pallas, an opportunity to restructure government, okay, so that it aligns with the needs of the people and all the people. This is actually a very fertile time for us to recreate our world, especially with Neptune in a square, because we have to bring that Neptunian energy in. We have to bring in the energy of oneness, okay? And these are the forces that are sort of pushing on us at this time. And so it depends on where you're at and what level you want to work at. If you want to work in the level of pure duality, as sort of does the President of the United States, then there's a lot of confusion. But if you raise it up to a higher spiritual level, there's actually less confusion, and I believe more hope. And yet we cannot kid ourselves that magically everything is going to just manifest in the way that we want, because Neptune can bring in, especially square Mercury, can bring in this magical thinking. So we're at this place. It's sort of a very sort of tenuous place, and a place that we need to hold a space for each other. So let me bring in. I'm going to do a new share again, and we're going to go back to the Sabian symbols. Okay. And we're going to look at the Sabian symbol for 21 degrees of, and I don't know if it's actually on here. Let's see, I think is it here? Okay, 1 second, I just have to get to it. I think I can do it from here. Okay, no, I can't. Okay, let's do this. Just give me 1 second. Sabian symbol. Oh. 21 Gemini. And hopefully you can see this. Okay, let's do it this way. Let's go to Mind Fire again. Okay, I'm not sure you can see this, so I am going to do a new share. Oh, I think you can see it. Well, just in case you can't. I think you could see it all along, but technically I'm not that good. Okay, so let's look at 21 degrees of Gemini. Now remember, the new moon was at 3 degrees of Gemini, and it was the Garden of the Tuileries, right? So let's look at this 21. Okay, here we go. So at 21 degrees of Gemini, this is the ruling planet of Gemini. We have a tumultuous labor demonstration. The keynote here is the revolutionary impact of mental concepts upon collective emotions and the desires of man. This symbol parallels the one that began, well, that's okay, we're not going to talk about that. It says here, the mass of men have been aroused by mental images, slogans, and an appetite for the abundance of the ruling class enjoys. This also applies to the individual person, in whom contrasting spheres of activity have taken shape and result in a mind-based individualizing process. The organic function made their collective demands upon the lordly intellect. The stage may be set for a kind of revolution. So this is a revolution. So the energy of 3 degrees of Gemini is order and formalism, and these beautiful gardens that are only seen by the elite. And yet Gemini, the ruling planet of this new moon, brings in this tumultuous labor demonstration. And so we can see order to a certain extent and chaos. But the idea is that why should only the rich, right? Why should only the kings see this the beautiful illumination of the renaissance of the mind? And so what's happening is that this is also for the average person. And so the renaissance of this new moon needs to be shared with all of us, right? So that's Saturn that's Saturn trining this from Aquarius with Pallas there, the government. And how does the government need to change? What does it need to let go of, and what does it need to focus on? What seed needs to be formed in that balsamic conjunction? So this is very much a time where we are both illuminated to the possibilities of what life could be, using our intellect and using our minds, and that it doesn't need to just be for those elite. Okay, so there's this dual process going on. Hold on one second. Where that phone is. That's such a Gemini thing. Okay, such a Gemini thing, like a phone call. All right, so we have that going on. So let's go back to the charts, because what I want to do is I want to show you how this chart, we'll see this chart in the United States. So let me just do a few things here. Okay, so is this it? Okay, this is for, okay, here we go. This is for Washington, D.C.
Hello, Anna Marie. How you doing?
Sorry about that. It's my Gemini mother, actually Taurus mother on the phone. I have two names, Victoria and Anna Maria, but that's another story for another day. Okay, so here we have the new moon. The new moon in the chart for the United States is in the 9th house. So this is communication, planting seeds of communication. The 9th house is foreign places, and so perhaps we need to make some friends. But this is also the judiciary, okay? So something new coming through the judiciary. I know that there's a couple of things happening with the Supreme Court right now. Some things that will be coming down, so we can see newness in that. The ruler of this particular new moon, Gemini, is up here in the 10th house, conjunct Venus retrograde. In the 10th house is the house of the ruler or the president. So sort of looking at that, reevaluating that. This happens to fall on these two planets happen to fall on Trump's sun, North Node, Uranus. So he is, of course, as always, a big focus for us. We have all this Capricorn energy here, Pluto, Jupiter, in the 5th house of creativity. This is an opportunity for the government to become creative, right? We'll see. And we have Saturn here in this 5th house of creativity. So where this trine that I talked about, the Saturn Sun trine, or the Saturn new moon trine, is coming from the 5th house of creativity. So this is an opportunity for us to actually be creative. And the 5th house and the 9th house are fire houses. So we're dealing with that creative spark. If we look at the ascendant of this chart, it's in Virgo, which is also Mercury ruled. And Virgo is really about fixing what's broken. And so we have an opportunity to actually do that with this chart, because the ruling planet of this whole chart is, again, Mercury. Okay, and it is square Neptune. Neptune being in the 7th house. The 7th house is is partners and open enemies. And with Neptune there, we don't really know, we can't really tell who our enemy is. Is our enemy our leader? Is our enemy people outside of ourselves? Are we our own worst enemy? What is going on here? So this is really a time when we have the seeds that we plant are very mutable. They can become many different things. I think what's most important here is our intention. As always, intention counts for a lot. And if we can have compassion for others, Neptune in the 7th house, if we can reach out to the larger world, perhaps see how they're, we're very isolated here in the United States, and we have an isolationist president who wants to build walls and close down everything and then just bully everybody. This isn't working for us, quite frankly, okay? And so we can see the possibilities here of sort of rejoining the world. We also have a trine. We don't only have a trine to Saturn, and we don't only have a trine to Saturn and Pallas. We also have a trine to Juno, and Juno is a planet, is an asteroid of relationship, and it's in the relationship sign. And so this requires us to reach out and to relate to others in a much more fair and honorable way. And that, I think, is the key to this new moon, and also the key to our future, in America. We also have, just to look at this chart as it sits, we have Mars in a conjunction to Ceres in Pisces. This is energy around nurturing all people, okay, taking care of everyone. Okay, we can't just take care of the rich. We need to take care of everyone. This is America. This is equality. This is an opportunity for us to remember who we are, who we really are, or who we think we really are, or perhaps who we can be. So that's pretty exciting. So let's look at this chart. Oops, sorry, Rose. You need to pull your chart up. This is Washington. Let's see it for Sydney, Australia, just because I know I have some Australian, and we're going to look at England as well. In Australia, this new moon is in your house of resources. So new communication around resources. This is the 10th house where we have Pallas and Saturn, holding your government accountable to take care of the people. You have this Neptune in here in this 11th house. I think for you guys, and I don't know the situation there, so my first thought with Neptune here in a square to the 2nd house, this has to do with your indigenous people, because the 11th house is very much, you have to make sure you're taking care of your indigenous people and utilize the wisdom that you can get from them. Okay, so there's that. Now let's see, is this Greenwich, England? So this is Greenwich, England. In England, we have this new moon falling in your house of partnership and open enemies. You need to talk to other people. You need to make connections. I know this is another isolationist country at this point with Brexit, although I don't think, because of the pandemic, that's really happening. Kind of, it never really, when I did cards on it, it never really felt like it was going to happen, even though they kept talking about it happening. So we have that there. We have the square to Neptune here in the 5th house. The 5th house is creativity. It's also children, okay, and all of the Gemini, the mind and the values in the 8th house are going to require a transformation, a letting go of things that no longer serve in the mind, and then also in what you value. So there's going to have to be a change to a certain extent of values and a letting go of something um, with with uh, with England here, with the United Kingdom. So and this is also actually this is also a chart for, I did it for Greenwich. I could have done it for London. It's the same place. But the Greenwich time is actually a world spot. So we could see this would be a world chart, and we have Scorpio on the ascendant. So this new moon in Gemini requires us as a world to connect with others, to completely transform and to transform our values and our mind, so that it is more in alignment with the fifth house can be children. The children are our future. And so we have to look at this viewing it as our future, right? And then we have Saturn and Pallas in this third house of the mind. How do we structure our mind to create a better world for ourselves? How do we transform ourselves? What do we need to let go of? And then what needs to grow from that place? And then we also have that trine to the 11th house. And the 11th house is the house of friends. And so at some point, we're going to have to realize, and I know many of us do, that we're all in this together. And that we have to start making friends with one another. We have to stop fighting. We have to work together. That's what this chart says. For the most part, that's what all the charts in one way or another say. So I hope you found this helpful. Sorry about all the interruptions. It's Gemini. You're going to get a phone call in the middle of a new moon in Gemini. New moon in Gemini reading. So like and subscribe. Hope you got something out of this. I felt a bit scattered, but this is kind of a Gemini energy, and the way that I'm doing this is sort of a very this is the energy that we're in right now. So what I'm experiencing, how I'm coming across, this is the Gemini new moon with a trine to Saturn and Pallas and Juno, right? Trying to, bring some understanding between all people. And yet with the square from Neptune being a little perhaps confused. But you get what you get from it. So have a great day. Thanks again for watching. And I'm going to be doing some readings today, I think, for the new moon with my tarot cards. So keep your eyeballs open for that. See you later, guys. Bye.